Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another morning coffee show with me, Richard Vobes. It's a miserable day out in jolly old Worthing, where I am based. I hope it's a much nicer day where you are. But we're keeping warm with a lovely cup of coffee. I've got coffee here with a mug, the Romney Marsh mug it is. Actually, I've half drunk this coffee while I was setting up the show. So please excuse me as I have the final gulp. Delicious. Now, last night was bonfire night. I wasn't out celebrating bonfire. However, there were fireworks and all that kind of malarkey outside, which was lovely. Enjoyed all of that, hearing the sounds and hearing poor old dogs being frightened down in the terrace parade that I live in. A couple of dogs were a little bit upset. It's not so pleasant for the poor old dogs and various cats and animals like that. I appreciate. However, it is a tradition. It's something we do. It's usually only once a year. It's funny how fireworks now, while it was special at one time to have fireworks on November the 5th, as we celebrate the whole sort of historic event of Guy Fawkes. Now it seems for a whole 3-week period, fireworks are being sold because they can be commercially up and down the countryside. People are buying them, and it's not so special now. It's always like any old day of the week you can have them at this period, and they go on and on and on. It is a shame in a way because it sort of takes away the focus on an event that was an important event in our history. But now you've got also, even on Halloween they have fireworks, which seems a little bit weird because surely that will frighten away the spirits. Anyway, I was sitting there quite merrily reading a book. By the way, the book I was telling you about yesterday, the Arundel murder book, which was, I'll have to go and find it in a minute, and I've forgotten what the title is. Justice for Joan, there we are, by Martin Knight. I was telling you about it in yesterday's show. Finished it over the weekend. Big thanks to Ellie who dropped it in. Very kind of you. Absolutely gripping story, real life story, with a lot of stuff verbatim from the various courts and the files and the papers that the police had. But by goodness, it is a bit of an eye-opener. And I understand that a number of you have already ordered it, and you will not be disappointed, let me tell you. Anyway, so I was sitting there reading this happily by my little Essie, keeping nice and warm, and then something dropped through. Somebody, somewhere, don't know who it was, sent in a Christmas card to myself and the lovely Julia. And it says, Richard and Julia, a Christmas card, please open nearer the time. So I've not been able to open it as yet, so I'm going to keep that for the Christmas period to open near there. So whoever you are, I don't know who, I rushed to the door, but you had mysteriously vanished like a spectre in the night. It wasn't a particularly pleasant night, so you must have got a little bit wet, but thank you whoever you are. We will find out in due course, and we will share it on the show. So if you want to send a Christmas card, you're very, very welcome. You'll have to get in touch, richard@vobes.com, to get the address. What I really need to do, I suppose, is set up a P.O. box, and then I can advertise it. I don't know how much P.O. boxes are these days. They're probably quite expensive. We had a lovely flurry of emails, which is fantastic, and thank you very much for doing that. Susan got in touch and said, I want to show you my kitchen. My kitchen is very much like yours. Hang on, I have an email. Let's have a look at Susan's email. She says, my name is Susan. I enjoy watching your videos. I live in a similar type house to you, which has a lot of original features. I like your period style kitchen and love the Essie. I thought you may like to see a few photos of my kitchen. It's an old-fashioned kitchen as well, but unfortunately doesn't have an authentic stove like yours. Best wishes from Susan, and a kiss, which is very nice. Thank you very much, Susan. And so let's excuse me. Let's go and have a look at your kitchen. Here it is. Look at that. She sent these pictures in. Absolutely amazing. I love the cupboards, and I love the overall style and the worktop. And, of course, you've got a butler sink. If I just come in here, we'll see a bit more of it. I like the tiled round the fireplace and this wonderful, beautiful sort of almost Georgian-looking what do you call it now? The fire surround. Absolutely brilliant. There's more pictures. Here we go. This one's a little bit wonky, but not to worry. Beautiful butler sink. I think it is, no, a Belfast sink because it's got the overflow on it. Lovely taps, like the window with that sort of lacy type pattern, that frosted lacy pattern. Lots of cups hanging up there, which is superb. And the handles, the little shell like handles on the drawers. Beautiful detail, very well thought out. How lovely. And there's the other side of the kitchen with lovely coloured glass in the back door. Isn't that nice? And a cat flap by the looks of things. And lots of bits and bobs. And I like all the detail of the, these things, these little, what do you call them, memento things. And a lovely clock as well. It is a very beautiful kitchen. There we go, that's the last view. And I love your fridge. Look at that old-fashioned looking fridge down there and all the cupboards and more of that and pots and things. You must absolutely love it in your kitchen, Susan. And I have to say, quite envious I am. Trying to get out of the... that's it. There we go. Marvellous. Thank you so much for sending that in. That's very kind of you. If you've got pictures of your kitchen or you've got pictures you want to send in, richard@vobes.com is the email to send it to, and we'll be delighted to show. If you've got period stuff, looking for anything Old English, if you've got anything Old English you want to share, things that you have around there, we've got to cling on to the Englishness in this, particularly in this day and age when everything is changing and there's so many different influences from all over. It's almost as if, that English nature that we have is being washed away, and I'm not happy with that. So that's what I'm trying to promote in the shows, and all the work that I do is to show off a little bit of English and to be proud of our nation. It's not wrong to be proud of our nation. Now, we've been looking at kitchen. Thank you very much to the kitchen there of Susan. But I'm going to go down into my kitchen, for somebody suggested something, and I do listen. I do take these things on board. So let's have a look why I'm down in the kitchen and what I'm up to. Well, I'm back down in the kitchen again, and one of my lovely viewers had said to me, I've got some advice for you. Here's a book that you need in the kitchen. Everyone should have it. And it is Delia Smith's, what's it called? Complete Illustrated Cookery Course. First published, I think, in 1978. This edition, 1993. So it's been going strong ever since, and I dare say there's an updated, probably more modern version. But the basics are in here. So thank you very much. I can't remember. It was on a comment on one of the videos. I can't remember. So I thought, okay, well, maybe in fits and starts, we'll revisit this book and try out some of the bits and pieces in there. So I'm going to start right from the start. And we're going to have a look and see what she says. So there's an introduction, and then it lists all the various bits of equipment that you might need in the kitchen. Now, over the years, you know what it's like. You save up money, you buy bits and pieces, and they stay with you. Sometimes you get hand-me-downs, family heirlooms, and all that kind of malarkey. And it's brilliant, and it's just the great thing. But sometimes you have to go out and buy something for a special recipe, and then you may never use it ever again. Or when that another recipe comes and it says, oh, there's a bit, you suddenly go, hang on a minute, I've got one of those, I've never used it. Or I was given it, or something like that. So it's always interesting to see, but the basics, I suppose, is what most people hopefully can get hold of very easily if you haven't already got it in your kitchen, so to speak. So I thought I would just check with her little checklist of bits and pieces what we might need for the forthcoming cooking. Because it's that time of year, isn't it, when the nights are drawing in, it is cold. What are you going to do? You're going to sit there and just watch the television, or you're going to get up and go into the kitchen and rustle up something nice and wholesome and healthy from raw ingredients. And that seems to be a very healthy way of going things, rather than getting all that horrible processed food or TV dinners. That's my thoughts. You may disagree, and you may say, no, TV dinners and all that processed food, far too good for you. Why would you miss an opportunity, or it's a hell of a lot cheaper? Whatever. Let's not worry too much about that. I think more people just need to learn, men, women and children need to learn just the basics of cooking. I'm not pretending I'm going to teach anybody that. I'm teaching myself. So, first thing, saucepans. Now, you can't see it, but up here, I'll take a shot. I have all my saucepans rattling up on well, a hanger thing, a pipe, and on hooks. That's the word I'm looking. Above the S, it keeps them nice and warm, although they do get a bit dusty. And just before I use them, I always give them a good wipe down. So I've got those. It also lists various tins for casseroles and things. Now, I've got some Pyrex dishes down in the cupboard. I won't get them out. There's not enough space to put things. It also mentions one of these. I've got one of these. These are these, well, I think in some countries they call them a Dutch oven, don't they? Because you shove everything. It's cast iron jobby. This one was bought to me by a very kind American. It's huge, absolutely huge. I don't get to use it so much these days. I would like a much smaller one, half size one. So maybe there's one. Somebody did offer to buy me one on the marketplace. I just wasn't in the ready to have one. I didn't have nowhere to put it. Didn't have nowhere to... Anyway, you work that out. So let's get shot of that for a moment. But I do use it occasionally, and I'll fill it up. And the great thing about that is you can cook it on my Essie, on my wood-burning stove, on the top, on the hot plate, or shove it in the oven. So, and I love it. And the cast iron keeps it going. It's got things like cake things, the cutter outers, and I have got some of those actually in my back room. Yeah, that's true. And various other tins. Of course, it's talking about mixers. I have a lovely mixer. This is one that I inherited really from my daughter. She is in New Zealand and she was only going for a couple of years, but it looks like she's got residency now. So I don't know whether I'll ever see her again. And this is hers. I'm looking after it. It's on permanent loan until she wants it back. Spatulas and knives. I do have various spatulas and knives. These little pincer things, very useful, especially for bacon and picking up, you know, flipping things over, tomatoes and things like that. Always very useful like that. A whisk, a hand whisk. Now, some people use a machine. I use one of these, and I love to sort of do it either like that or like that. Great fun, and lots of other bits and bobs. Anyway, so this is what you've got, spatulas and things. Knives, yes, knives. Now, I'm pretty rubbish on knives. I need to get my selection of good quality knives. So that for me is something that I know no one, none of my family will probably get them for me for Christmas, but I'll end up having to buy some, I think, myself, some nice Christmas present knives, you know. I could juggle them, but that would be a bit insane. It's got here a grater, so I've got a grater. We've got one of those meat grinders. I haven't got one of those. I've never really used one. Maybe I should. Maybe it's cheaper to mince meat that way yourself. What do they call it? A mincer, cast iron kind with a clamp. That might be a good idea. Pestle and mortar. I have got that, and I very rarely use this, but it's good for sort of crushing up when you're making a curry and things like that, certain little seed pods and things. So I'd like to do more of that for sure. The salt and pepper and a lemon. I've got a lemon squeezer up here, little lemon squeezer, which I'm now using all the time. Blimey, we used to do, Julia and I have this signature dish in which we make lemon chicken, and it's lovely, but we were squeezing it by hand and all of this. Processor, it's mentioned. Oh, and scales. Look, I've got these beautiful scales that were given to me by one of my viewers. Thank you so much. With all the old-fashioned weights, pounds and ounces. I nearly said pounds, shillings and pence, but I didn't mean it. And that's lovely. Where am I going to put that? I'm going to put that out of the way. So now I have to say I have got an electric one, which is a flatbed thing, which actually is a little bit easier these days. But I love this. I love it, even if it's just decoration, which normally sits at the back there on there. I just think it's every kitchen should have one. So we're going to go to the first chunk, because I realise that time is running thin. It always sort of goes through your fingers, doesn't it, like water. It just slips away before you know what to do with it. And the first thing we're talking about is eggs. Eggs are very essential. Now, I do have some eggs, which I got from the supermarket. And it's a question that Delia, in her book, says, how can you tell if they're fresh? You might buy them, but have they been on the shelf for ages, and are they any good? So, and of course she talks about, you know, the cholesterol in eggs, the buying eggs, the free-range eggs, brown or white eggs, and all of that nonsense. But I'm not going to be so interested in that. For the moment, I just want to know, in this last bit, is are your eggs fresh? So, I'm going to get rid of the book because, where can I put it? I'll put it over here, look. There we are, we'll get rid of this somewhere, shove it over there. Good. Jugs and all that. Now, I do have a jug. She says, and this is interesting, I hope it's going to be interesting, A jug of water is all you need, and you take an egg. Now these are supposed to be fresh, and you put it in the water. Okay, I'm going to put it in the water, make sure I don't drop it. And the thing is, if it lies, let's move this out of the way. If it lies at the bottom, let me move that so you can see it. That means it's fresh. If it's lying horizontal, that is a fresh egg. That is brilliant. Whoops. Let me try this one. If it happens to go, that's another fresh egg. Oh, that is good news. If it happens to go more vertical, then it's not quite so fresh. It's it's on the turn. But if it happens to go and float, then it's don't eat it. Throw it at maggots. I can't remember what she says. There's another test you can do to tell by putting it on a saucer. And I'm not going to do this because I'm not going to eat this. But you tap it on the saucer and you can look at it and you see if it's proud, if the yolk is proud, or if it's a little flat and looking a bit watery. And that is another test. So there we go. But it seems that this box that I bought, fresh from Sussex eggs in the supermarket, does seem to be fresh. So I'm very pleased. So we're going to look at some of the other things you can make with eggs in a next episode, because that's the next thing in the book. So thank you so much to whomever it was for suggesting that. You see, I do listen, and we've got the eggs. I've got the book, and we're going to make some fine English fare. And I have here the book. It's a great tome of a thing. I didn't really show it off terribly much in that little piece, as I was just absolutely enthralled with the way that the book was presented. There's not that many photographs. There are photographs in it, but not that many photographs, but tons of recipes and tons of advice, which is what I think is fantastic, really. And I love the fact that, she's been going around for so long. This is an edition for the 1990s, as it said. And, so it's going to be full of top tips, but food is food, isn't it? It may change a little bit, and our tastes may differ over the years, but it doesn't change hugely that much. So I love that. I love it, and it's just nice to have a reference book to go to, even if it's just for ideas rather than verbatimly following it. Although it's nice to get some sort of basics. We absorb and learn things from people we see, or people we, these days on YouTube, and you get sort of vague ideas. But it is nice always to get some basics underneath as a grounding, like with anything, some rules and bits and pieces, which of course you can break later. So I hope to revisit that and try out some of those recipes on these shows and things like that. I mean, I often say I'm going to do these things, and I just need to actually carry them out and cook them on my Essie or on my immersion hub. Is it immersion hub? Immersion hob. Induction hob. That's what it is. I always get that mixed up. But I think celebrating food and cooking it's one of those primeval things. We had to do it when we were as hunter-gatherers. We had to sort of find food, gather it. And then as we settled down as farmers, we began to understand what food was, and we could grow food. We realized that grains, for example, we didn't just have to bite the seed and try and get the nutrients that way. We could actually turn it into bread and things like that. And I think the joy and the excitement of creating something from just some raw ingredients is fascinating. And in this modern, very fast world that we live in, in which we are encouraged to let somebody else do all the fun, and we're sort of discouraged from doing that in many ways, because we're all seeming to having to work so much harder and longer. And almost having the kitchen as a demoned place where you just literally have to go in as an industrial place, really. You just shove something into the microwave and that's it. And you come out with something, or you buy a quick and easy dinner so that you can plonk yourself on a soft sofa and watch a great big screen. Whereas I think, and for Julia and I, and in the past, in previous girlfriends, I found the cooking process, that whole business of creating something, just frying up onions. I'd be frying up onions and Julia will come in and go, "Oh, something smells nice, and it's literally that. It's just the onions in the pan, and suddenly the aroma is going around the house, and the expectation, you're building up to something, and then you finally put all the last bits together, and you sit, and yes, you gobble it up, and it's all gone ever so quickly, and then there's a pile of washing up to do. But that's fun too, and I think these things can be fun, that you get into there. You don't just shove it into another machine and let it just wash, because then what are you going to do? Just, oh yeah, I'll just do that and sit down and watch the screen. No, I love that, washing up with somebody else and having a conversation, whether it's talking about how you could improve the food that you've done, or other recipes you want, or politics of the day, or things that have gone on at work. You're engaging. And if you've got kids, and you can get them involved, and it's not just chores, you're just going to help, but actually make that process, the chores, a place where the family can get together and have a chat. Because your learning skills, especially if you're, generations apart, the parent and the child, and you're going, well, what do you think about food? Did you like that? What would you like it to be done? And get them, you've got to get kids involved in food really young, so that they enjoy cooking, so that as they go forward in life, they aren't, as so many people, it seems to me, are scared to test things out, or do not know where food comes from. And the more you can get them involved, and the fact that you're talking about the things they're interested in as well, then conversation is enjoyable. Conversation is such an enjoyable thing to do, to have somebody to talk to share ideas and learn from, rather than just playing on computer games. And I think kids don't have enough conversations with their parents or with their peers. They're guided to sit there and just look blankly at screens and just take things in. There's a place for that, of course. But if you can engage them, and you learn, and you bond. That's what it's all about. Anyway, so the kitchen is the hub of the house in many ways, or it should be. Not the bedroom or the sitting room, which is a place you go to relax afterwards, but that whole creation of the meal. Now, I asked if anyone's got a wood-burning stove, because I love fires and stoves and that sort of old-fashioned, very English type of thing. I know there are stoves all over the world and what have you. And Jack very kindly sent in a picture of his stove, and I thought it would be fun to have a look at that. And if you've got a stove and a picture to send in, then do. Let me just jump back into how we do this. There we go. And this is his stove. He's got this fire protector thing in front, because I think he said he's got a 2 or 3 year old running around, and I don't blame you for that. But I love the fact that there it is, the wood burning stove at full belt, in your chimney, and the lovely bit of brick exposed beyond the plaster there at the back in the grate. And it's good to see a log. You can't see that. Hang on, can I move that around? There we go. Where you put your logs and all the bits and pieces, and a little bit of dirt. I think that's fantastic. When you've got a little bit of dirt in there, you're not too prissy about it. Oh dear, there's a speck here, there's a speck there. It's nice to get a little bit sort of back to basics, and a fire really does that. It fires me up, as you can tell. So I love that. Other things that we were talking about as a reaction, I said we had a flurry of emails and things, which is true. So Bob got in touch, and this is fascinating email. He says, Richard, I tried my father's old cutthroat razor. Do you remember I showed you, I was telling you how I got on with my cutthroat razor. He says, my double-edged razor. He says, I tried my father's cutthroat razor and strop as a lockdown project. Now, I assume that a strop is that leather strap that you somehow sharpen. I couldn't quite work out how you sharpen a blade on that. I thought it would just polish it, but presumably it does, and I guess it's called a strop. I don't know whether that's where you get having a strop comes from. Anyway, he said it gave up after 6 weeks. It's slow and requires more dexterity than I possess or can be bothered with. And I didn't like my wife creeping up behind me when I was using it. No, that does sound a little bit bizarre. As you have, I then went to my old safety razor. One has to shave twice to get as smooth a shave as the disposable razors I was using and still use in a hurry. He says the blades seem tremendously variable. Did I identify your blades as a Derby Extra? Yes, I think they were. I brought 100 of these for about £4 and they were great. The next box was £6 and they only seem to last about 2 or 3 shaves compared to the 6 previously. Wilkinson's sword blades are better, but £4 for 10 in boots, and very disappointing, they're now made in Germany. They're so £4 for 10, whereas I was getting like 100 for the same price. Yours in smoothness, Bob. Thank you, Bob. Very kind of you to send us that information. And I have been looking. I was looking online, but and I could get them again for about £4 or £5, which was great. But to have them sent from these places, the postage was almost the same price again. So you're kind of paying double. And the little corner shops that you used to have, not the haberdasheries, the ironmongers and places like that where you could buy these things, they're all disappearing now because everything's online. So unless you build up what you need to buy a number of things, so you get to a point where the amount is you get to the point where the amount is sufficient so that you don't have to pay the postage. He's like, oh, and I'm running out now, so I need to do that. However, Dorothea got in touch. She may have the answer. Have a look at this. She says, before I forget, my mother used to sharpen the razor blades that my father used in a very similar razor to the one that you're using now. She'd take a small glass jelly jar type that jelly came in, or peanut butter or whatever, and lay the blade down perpendicularly flat on the inside curved side, and with one finger move the blade back and forth so that the sharp-edged sides are being swiped back and forth along the slick glass sides, side to side. I'm not really sure I quite understand that. She'd do this with both sides of the blades, front and back, top and bottom. She claimed that it would prolong the life and sharpness of the blade by several uses. Not sure if it's really a thing or not, but maybe worth a try. And I replied to her, well, that's love for you, is it not? If you are there swiping and sharpening those very tiny little razor blades. I mean, they are, if you can get the packets and you get them for in hundreds, they are really cheap. However, people did some crazy things. So that is love for you. Thank you so much for that. How brilliant is that? Now, before we go, I wanted to tell you, I wanted to show you another item that the lovely Ellie brought round when she came, and we will get her in touch and do an interview with her about her pub. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of those old-fashioned candlestick telephones, complete with the receiver. Oh, hello. Anybody there? Oh, yes. Mr. Vobes, yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for calling. What a beautiful piece this is. And I believe it's been adapted so that it's got the old dial on it as well. This bit is... hang on, I wonder if I can put the... let's just go back to the webcam. Does this work? Hang on. Go back to there. I can show you then. Look, the old-fashioned dial. Isn't that lovely? And then there's the mouthpiece and everything. It's just a beautiful thing. So I put this in my hallway where my normal phone is, but it has been adapted so that you can actually plug it in. I haven't yet tried that, but wouldn't it be wonderful to answer the phone in that fashion? I think it would be lovely. So there we go. another piece of old England that is lovely to have around the house. And if you've got some bits of memorabilia of old England and you want to share with us, do send the pictures to richard@vobes.com. I still haven't managed to get the graphics and all of that. There's difference of opinion. Somebody said they wanted some background music going in, and then a couple of people in the comments said, no, please, no background music. So, it's difficult to get it all right. But we're doing our best here on the show, and I hope you are enjoying all of it. And that's pretty much it for today. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are, whatever you're doing. From me, Richard Vobes. Tomorrow, hopefully, there'll either be I don't quite know the order of things. There'll either be another English couple. Julia and I will be chatting about something, probably in the afternoon, or a morning coffee. Who knows? Probably time for an English couple to break it all up a bit. But thank you very much. It's been lovely to talk to you and speak with you and spend this time with you. Until next time, bye-bye.